welcome to the stage, IIoT World's Advisory Board member, Hamish McKenzie.
Thank you very much, Lucian. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to some of you, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the next session of the 2024 IIoT World Manufacturing Days events. This one is Unlocking the Potential, Exploring the Most Valuable IIoT Devices You Already Use, sponsored by Omron today. I am Hamish McKenzie. And for those of you who joined my other two sessions today, I'm still on vacation in the south of France, just down the road from the Cannes Film Festival. Scarlett Johansson hasn't called me yet, inviting me to an after party, but I am living in hope, keeping my fingers crossed. And while I'm waiting for her to call, I do have more important things to do, namely guiding you through the penultimate session of today. As we all know, the world of industrial Internet of Things is growing very, very rapidly, and with devices hidden in plain sight having the potential to deliver an awful lot of value if you can extract it. And this panel is all about shedding light on those devices that are already in use. We're going to talk about some of the core principles of IIoT and emphasizing the importance of connectivity, data, and the information that data can give you. And we're going to really try and uncover the hidden gems of IoT devices and how tools like generative AI and machine learning can help leverage those devices to revolutionize processes, optimize efficiency, and drive superior business outcomes. So we've got an awful lot to cover, and we're going to have some great conversations. And I'm very keen to introduce you to our three special guest speakers in this session. But before I do that, just a couple of bits of housekeeping. So feel free to drop in the chat where you are, who you are, why you're attending. The session is going to last just shy of an hour. And we're going to obviously be getting a lot of valuable insights from our panelists, as I said, but we will also leave some time at the end to answer any questions that you, our audience, have. So please do keep those questions coming in throughout the session. Please make my life easier if you can, if you feel like it, by using the Q&A tool, not the chat function, because if you use the chat function, the questions tend to get lost. If you use the Q&A tab, then it just makes it much easier for me to find the questions, and you're much more likely to get your question answered. So get your questions in the Q&A tool. Don't wait till the end. Just as they pop into your head, get them in there. And as I said, that will increase the likelihood that we get to your question before the end. So, as I said, I'm delighted that we have three very special guests with us today, and I'd like to introduce them to you now. First up, we have Trent Christopher, who is Systems Architecture Engineer at our sponsor, Omron. With over 20 years of industrial automation experience, Trent is a highly accomplished system architecture engineer, renowned for his innovative solutions. And his expertise lies in designing and implementing cutting-edge systems that elevate productivity and efficiency to new heights. And as we all know, in this manufacturing arena, we're all about productivity, efficiency, and how these new tools, these new technologies can help drive those. He has a deep passion for technology, and he remains at the forefront of his industry trends, and he's constantly refining his skills to deliver an unparalleled excellence in his field. So welcome, Trent. Thank you for joining us.
Yep, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Next, we have Nick Alexander, who is Senior Engineering Manager at Toyota Motor North America. He has over 17 years of experience in automotive production engineering at Toyota, and has a great reputation for strategic leadership in project execution and new technology development. He creates actionable narratives to complex problem spaces, initiating support to make big changes where real value can be generated. And he serves as a leader of new technology equipment projects, and he acts as kind of a human bridge between the technical teams that develop the solutions and the operations team that actually have to run those systems and sustain them. He's very passionate about harnessing the power of teams with a diversity of perspectives to solve the most challenging problems that Toyota has and the industry has as a whole, and in a way that increases happiness for both the team members and obviously customers at the end of the day. It's great to have you with us, Nick.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure.
And next we have Helen Zing, who's Data and AI Partner GTM Amazon Web Services in the Americas. And Helen describes herself as an unstoppable force at the intersection of education, technology, and social impact. She's got expertise in business development, strategic alliances, partner sales, and she really focuses on propelling companies towards their revenue targets. And at the end of the day, revenue is one of the key factors here. She currently leads Data and AI Partner GTM at AWS, but she started her journey at Merck, and she then had 15 years at Oracle, rising to Senior Director of Partner Solutions in North America Sales. And she also worked at Tableau, where she pioneered the government and education partner ecosystem. Outside of business, she's at the forefront of Data for Good, fostering public-private partnerships to support veterans, champion diversity, equity, inclusion, and social welfare. And she also serves as the chairwoman of the board of Nellie Berman Classical Music Institute. And not only that, she also holds an MBA from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. So very, very accomplished, very busy lady. Thank you for joining us, Helen. We're delighted to have you.
I'm super excited to be here.
Fantastic. And finally, a few words about me. If you don't know me, my name is Hamish Mackenzie. I'm a former IDC analyst. I've been running my consulting, advisory, and coaching practice from Munich since 2006. And I work with software CEOs and executives, helping them in both Europe and North America, helping them with their positioning, their strategy, and in particular, helping them with their growth efficiency. So especially when they're in the kind of startup scale-up phase. I also work as a coach and sparring partner for CEOs and help them develop their leadership capabilities. And if you'd like to know more about me, just look me up on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Hamish Mackenzie in Munich on there. So there are a few others around, but I'm the only one in Munich, so you shouldn't find it too difficult to find me. Quick reminder, please get your questions into the Q&A tool. Don't use the chat function, use the Q&A tool, and please just start getting them in there as soon as possible. Then we'll get to as many as we can by the end of the session. All right, so with all that said, I think we should get into it. And I wanted to start by trying to set some context, I guess. And Trent, if I can come to you first, how would you say that the industrial Internet of Things is redefining the roles of these existing industrial devices that are already there? And I'm thinking particularly in terms of balancing the kind of reliable traditional functions, but with now this need to have external data access.
Yeah, sure, I can help with that. So, I mean, in industry, like in manufacturing right now, priority on devices is always going to be production, because production is king. We're always expecting that it's going to be prioritizing that function over, anything else. However, with both existing devices and upcoming new devices that are being released into the market, what we're expecting is something beyond that. Of course, priority is to continue manufacturing processes, but the expectation is that it can provide value outside of that. So when we are applying these devices in manufacturing, once they've been applied, so for example, when a manufacturer purchases a machine and the machine is delivered to them, of course, there's a lot of process that goes into ordering a machine and delivering it. But once they've received it and it's producing parts for them, it's producing their material, it's producing their product, they are expecting that, okay, now how can this deliver value and integrate with my business beyond being able to just do what I asked it to do originally, which of course you have to produce. But now we're expecting things like connectivity and integration into a business ecosystem that it was previously not at the forefront of our minds. So that's largely becoming a challenge to have different expectations now in industry for these devices that are already in the field.
Okay, and we're going to come on to some of those challenges a little bit later. And I think, since COVID, in America especially, but I think in other areas of the world as well, there's been quite a lot of the changes in consumer demand, especially in terms of things like customization of products and access to durable goods, and that's resulted in the need to build a lot of new industrial and manufacturing facilities as well, right? So how do these new facilities influence your organization's perspective in terms of data utilization, but also that factory floor connectivity that you were just talking about?
Yeah, before COVID, there was, of course, the same pressures as there are now post-COVID, but COVID specifically has put extra pressure on areas of needing to be flexible and agile in both, how we operate our business and how we manufacture a product. And that's one of the big things that we're seeing in manufacturing right now is the need for flexible manufacturing. And we we can leverage some of these technologies with data and connectivity to be able to make our businesses more flexible, more agile. When we use the feedback from our processes, we can use those things to be able to, adapt and change in a more rapid potential, let's say, closed loop fashion, where we can take feedback automatically and then make decisions and adapt to that on a more timely response and feed that back into our product. And then consumer demand. We are getting much more feedback from consumers of what they are desiring. And the manufacturing processes are wanting to be able to meet those demands very quickly. And being able to do that, we have to leverage technology. And if we don't, our competitors already are. So if we don't, then we're going to fall behind. So we have to make sure that we are leveraging the same tools that we have available to the other market competitors as well. And then one additional thing that I can think of that's really putting stress on things is supply chain. That's something that everybody experienced in COVID, was that the needs for being able to control stock and predict when we need to have product moving from one location to another, placing orders, and making sure that we have the product when we need it. But the demands are even greater now after post-COVID, where we are trying to have the product and manufacturing closer to the facilities instead of having it overseas or having it long distances across the globe because of that long supply chain, having so many points of failure. And those particular things specifically are putting a lot of pressure on the needs to have connectivity in today's manufacturing.
Yeah, and just my favorite example, just going back to what you were saying about agility and speed of response to customer demands. I'm in Germany, and Germany's big in automotive is a huge part of our economy. But as far as I'm aware, German manufacturers are still working to 7-year vehicle development cycles. In China, they have a vehicle platform, especially in the EV market. And what they'll do is they'll have a platform, a vehicle platform. They'll put a body on it, name the model, whatever, put it out in the market. And if it doesn't sell, then they just take it off again, swap the body, call it something different, and try again and see what works. And that happens within 7 months, not 7 years. So there's a massive, I don't know what the equivalent example would be in the States in automotive, but the differential is just staggering. And it's some of these technologies are helping them in that responsiveness, obviously.
Yeah. And manufacturers that don't work in that space may not understand, or people that don't work in the manufacturing space may not understand what it takes to be able to make that change. That change alone, you have to consider, how many bodies did I already order of that previous model that no longer works? Am I going to be able to change rapidly? So when we talk about supply chain, right? If you have thousands of these sitting in stock that you've already ordered with the intention to build them, and then you find that consumer demand is saying no, now you have a lot of wasted purchases and a lot of wasted material right there, and time and effort. So if you can respond, if you can keep that supply chain stock at a appropriate level, and then be able to dynamically change with the market, that's key right there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And given that I just actually not on purpose at all, but I did come up with an automotive example, and that made perfect segue to go to Nick now, and to ask him, Nick, what existing assets are you currently looking to leverage for Toyota in terms of data connectivity?
Well, yeah, no, I think exactly to your point, there's a lot of challenges in front of us in terms of being lean and agile, competing in new marketplaces with new products. And we as a legacy company have a lot of deployed capital already out across the globe. We need to be able to leverage that. We can't, wipe the slate clean. So we've been working, there are several examples. So like in our weld shops specifically, we have networked the weld timers together to be able to better understand the patterns in weld creation through current analysis of the welds themselves. And this helps us to get data on things like expulsion, which are not necessarily a defect, but can cause dirt and cause downtime and need for rework and cleaning. On the robots themselves, the servo motors, that the servo current and temperature moving through is monitored by the robot controllers. That's already in the devices, but we work to network those together to get that information to a more central location to be able to prevent breakdowns before they happen. And then in somewhat of a little bit of a reverse scenario, we have projects where we're doing new tech deployments. We have some cameras that we're putting out to help team members do some self-coaching through analytics using skeletal tracking to understand how they could make their process more smooth or reduce ergo burden. And we've been able to take that network of cameras and gain additional functionality by associating images with bodies. We've been able to do a lot of traceability of issues and root cause analysis in our countermeasure process by pairing images with body numbers. And so we can search a specific body and be able to see what that body looked like at every stage of the process. That wasn't the initial intent of that equipment, but having that network and having the connectivity architecture has allowed us to get functionality that almost pays for the technology in the first place. And then the original intent is just all bonus. The examples I gave are mostly about pulling data into a centralized place. And then from there, we need to kind of understand how to interact with that data to maximize its value. We are a very big company. There's a lot of proprietary products out there that device makers provide. Sometimes those are the most efficient way to get good analytics quickly because the device makers understand the inner workings of their equipment. So we're able to adopt those. But other times we have a very diverse set of devices because we're so large. We don't purchase AMRs from a single company. We don't purchase robots from a single company. So we want that data aggregated together. And so we have in-house machine learning and AI developer groups that we're able to provide the data to, and they're able to make custom proprietary solutions specific to our needs. And we really try to especially target those in-house resources or custom analysis tools for areas where we really see those that analysis as being part of our core value to our customer. So where it's about the quality of the vehicle, we want to have a competitive advantage in those spaces and maintain that advantage. We to maintain a high level of quality for our products going out the door.
Okay, so yeah, that's a very valuable insight into a real manufacturing environment and what's actually happening in the real world. You talked a lot about data, and I wanted to come on to Helen now to talk perhaps a bit more. First of all, a bit more generally in terms of, could you talk a little bit about, Helen, about the role of data and AI within the context of IIoT generally?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. And in the meantime, I would have to say that it's a treat to hear what Trent and Nick both talked about, because we have this mental model at AWS. We're always working backwards from the customer. It's fascinating to hear that everything leads to data. And in the meantime, data means nothing until we can turn data into information,
right.
Information into insights, and insights into actionable and predictable insights. If you think about data, we need to really democratize AI, democratize data, because you know why? Everybody is knowledge worker. We need data to make decisions. So going backwards to talk about, data and AI with IIoT, I would like to say that the rapid development of internet network, as well as all this emerging technology, has really shifted the landscape of manufacturing from the traditional to more like smart manufacturing. And then those devices, it's everywhere and we touch it every day. It's collecting all sort of data. Think about imagings, voices, data, unstructured data, structured data. It's everywhere. And it's really massive amounts. And the reality is, the AI is merely, a thing that, it's tool, right? I like to start with the strategy, governance, the people, the process, technology, and we are that enabler as much as we are the technology platform. And I know that Trent was very happy that I'm here. I would say that we really follow what the customer wants to do and is really merely enabler. Like AI will enable a lot of things we can do in manufacturing, right? It could really help to develop the smart devices, make it even smarter, sometimes too smart that we're scared. And it could really help with advanced analytics to really dive deeper into the facts, to have more efficiency. It could really help with the predictive maintenance. I know that Toyota has that, to send data back to the manufacturer and predict when you need to change a part, and also to think about safety, right? There are all sort of use cases to improve real-time monitoring, to think about smart manufacturing, right? This is largely enabled by data and AI, and also the cost saving and efficiency. Yet in the meantime, there's always consideration. As a technologist, I've been working with data throughout my career. We always to think about garbage in and garbage out. Can you trust your data, right? Can you trust your data quality? Can the business users access data? Are they available to users, right? It could be everywhere. It could be seen everywhere. How do you integrate? I heard that Nick talked about it and Trent talked about integration of data. And how do you ensure the ethical use? So there's a lot to think about. Regardless, it is a new era that everything ties back to data. Without leveraging data, we're missing a huge upside opportunity for more efficiency, better customer experience.
Thanks for that. Sorry, Hamish. I have a quick question for Helen, or thought process, really. For AI to be able to leverage that, do you believe that or what are your thoughts on leveraging existing assets and the data that they might already withhold inside of them versus the latest generation technology that was maybe it was at the forefront of their mind to leverage AI? Do you think that it's hugely valuable or necessary to have those products that have AI in mind to be able to leverage it?
It's a great question. I would say, again, going back to our leadership principle, I love our 16 leadership principles. We work backwards from the customer. I don't really want to advocate for using AI for the sake of fancy technology. In the meantime, I believe in what the customer need dictates what you want to do. And I also think about, we always talk about think big, start small, and scale fast. I would really zone in on probably a big picture thinking is great, but also land on one or two specific use cases because there's a lot to consider. And some of the use cases may be a better fit, some may not be. And then the data integration, in the past, we talked about system integration, and more we now talk about data integration. It takes time, but does not mean that you have to wait forever. I would say that having the mind share of thinking big and starting small is a good mental model to leverage. At least that's my personal view on how to get things started.
Yeah. So probably from my perception, you might be able to, depending on the application, depending on the need, depending on the use case, you might need to add devices, or you might need to add ways to collect new data, but you might already have the data that you need that is in your process. You really just need to gain access to it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and starting small, the ideal way to start small is to start with what you've already got, right? Before you start making big investments in new stuff. So, all right, fantastic. And so you mentioned there, Helen, also that, you know, not, and this is something I hear a lot, and I totally agree with, you know, it should never be about technology for technology's sake. But if that's the case, then what do you think is the driving force at the moment in terms of the adoption of generative AI, for example? Is it that the board, the senior executives are looking for a competitive edge? Is it like you're saying, it's more about just proving that you're close to the customer? Is it about also improving productivity in terms of reducing costs, or, you know, what is the main, what do you see as the main drivers there, Helen?
Yeah, Harish, it's very well said what you described. I think it's all of the above. So in my view, AI is nothing new. The terminology was invented 1956. And we've been using AI all along. Everybody driving smart vehicle these days, and we're using Alexa, and you have iPhone, you're talking to Siri, and we don't even know. You go to Amazon.com and all this recommended product that likely that it could be helpful to you. So, you know, with AI, with the rise of machine learning and all this deep learning and generative AI, one of the interesting to think about is the vast data that's collected through those sensors and devices from the IoT, right? And you also think about cloud technology. Believe it or not, many years ago, nobody probably believed that, you know, we're going to cloud, but cloud has offered a very flexible way of compute without having to make huge upfront investment. The time is ripe, right? With the technology readiness, with the vast data readiness and data volume, and also cloud. Now, it is being asked by the CEOs and board a lot. That's what we've observed. Why? Because yes, it is comparative advantage. But if you think about AI, the usage in any enterprise, any organization, it actually falls into two buckets. Bucket one is your everyday use. You know, you're already doing a lot of this. The other side is the more of a game changer that ties to transformational change. And I'm going to use an example of, you know, that would give out my age. I used to have a Blockbuster card many moons ago. And we probably all heard of this once upon a time, that Blockbuster had an opportunity to pay $50 million to acquire Netflix, and they didn't. And Blockbuster does not exist anymore. So what I'm talking about, the board and CEOs are looking for transformational change to stay at, you know, advantage, to really have that competitive advantage, to continue to compete in the market. You have to keep inventing yourself. That's really one facet. The other facet is customer demanded. You know, you got to think about sometimes using new technology or not using new technology. It's not what if you do, it's that what if you don't? What your competitions are doing. And also what your customer want. The customers want new things. They want to really have better experience. They want to really be able to achieve more. They want to have more productivity, and all of that can be achieved through those innovation. And innovation require a lot of courage, and it's really part of the change management, probably from starting from within. You know, for example, we are using a lot of technology we produce ourselves within the company because employee wants AI as well to improve productivity. For example, we have a product at AWS called Code Whisper. Our customer and partner are leveraging Code Whisper to improve productivity of developers. One of the SI, system integrator, without naming name, improved 30% of developers' productivity. So employee wants to reduce time they're spending on all this administrative work, but really to spend more time. I'm sure Nick would be very happy that his team can spend more time inventing rather than doing the mundane stuff that can be done by automation, right? And then you also have the investors who's asking for it. I'm sure that you all watch Wall Street, and sometimes you see this news of the up and downs, and innovation matters. And now it ties back to a lot of the policymakers and so on. I think there's a lot of policy in place to ensure ethical use of AI. And anyways, with all these driving forces in play, we're at the time that the time is now for AI and for generative AI to help us innovate and provide better experience for our customers.
Yeah, and I think at least in this phase, then we're talking about enhancing people rather than replacing them. Maybe some exceptions to that, but I think in that's what I'm hearing, at least in among my customers, is that okay, there may be in some departments maybe a fewer new hires or whatever, but the main focus is on helping people you already have and helping the equipment that you already have getting more value and helping them do their job better, and also from a human perspective helping them spend more time doing the fun parts and less time doing the drudgery. So anyway, let's thank you for that, Helen. Let's move on now to some of the challenges and opportunities, particularly obviously in terms of manufacturing. And Trent, I wanted to ask you, in terms of when you're thinking about the challenges, how can we start realizing some of the benefits that we're talking about here? What are some of the obstacles that are preventing us realizing those benefits, especially when you think about modern facilities versus older legacy facilities, which have some of these existing devices that we've been talking about?
Yeah, sure. I can speak to that. So with existing, of course, as you had mentioned previously, that actually it's been mentioned by multiple people on the panel here, that you want to try to leverage your existing assets as much as you reasonably can, because you've already got the investment. You don't want to replace and invest tons of capital into replacing something that already is providing value to the business. So the challenge is, how can we add the capabilities or enable the capabilities to leverage connectivity and data from existing assets where it was not actually at the forefront of the design, right? So that's one of the biggest challenges from a technical perspective, being able to add that connectivity to all of our existing and legacy assets. And one of those common challenges, might be the huge variety of proprietary protocols or devices or manufacturers of the devices that have all of their own methods of being able to access the data, create connectivity, provide value to other systems outside of the process. So being able to adapt to those is a huge challenge in industry. And I know that that's where a lot of time and effort is actually spent. We could probably come back and talk to Nick a little bit about, what challenges he might have experienced when he was trying to implement connectivity to his robots and to his weld cells to be able to acquire that data. But I want to bring up another point, is that with new facilities, we have a huge opportunity to be able to make change, modernize, and have data and connectivity at the forefront of our mind when we're designing and implementing all of these new processes and equipment. But if we're stuck in legacy thinking, legacy methodologies, all we're really going to do is just dig that hole deeper, and we'll have more legacy equipment, more legacy technologies that are implemented in new facilities. And now we are, just basically making it more difficult for the future and advancement and digital transformation for our business. So we have to start to implement these new technologies where we can now, so that we, in the future, even if we don't leverage them currently, we should at least have them in our mind so that we can implement them and leverage them in the future, so that we don't fall behind the competition.
Okay, so very interesting point, and I think, yeah, as you suggested, maybe we should ask Nick now. So first of all, what have been some of those challenges getting that connectivity, just purely from a very practical perspective, but also, I know that from a company like Toyota's perspective, a big IoT project does involve investment, and the reality is that a lot of the time you don't necessarily know when and how much money you're going to get back in terms of ROI, in terms of potential future savings. So perhaps you can speak a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, no, it's a very complicated problem that I spend a lot of my time focused on, and it really is kind of chicken or egg. With you don't have a demonstration of the value it can provide until you do it, and to do it, you have to get somebody to agree to give you the money. There's a lot of very risk tolerant companies, particularly in Silicon Valley and elsewhere, that have invested a massive amount of money in collecting data, and they are currently demonstrating the rewards they reap. They tend to be in not so much in the automotive industry, but like each industry and area has its own kind of unique challenges with respect to those justifications. In Toyota, we tend to be a pretty risk averse and resistant to large capital projects unless we can show values coming. And on the value side of the equation, one of maybe this humble brag here, but one of my team's biggest challenges is we start to dig into the inefficiencies we can really work to remove with these AI solutions. A lot of our processes have had 75, 100 years worth of refinement and are fairly efficient to start with. So the opportunity at the back end for us tends to be pretty slim. We kind of have a two-pronged approach, and this really lines up with something Helen said earlier, talking about thinking big and acting small. We have a very large initiative actually involving AWS, among other companies, to do a global digital transformation, and there's a lot of strategy involved. There's huge budgets, but the schedules are very drawn out because and it's hard to maintain momentum on this. It's a very important initiative, and we have very good people pushing that forward. But in parallel, to make sure that we drive value today, we focus on all of our current project deployments. So these aren't as clean as the overall digital transformation, where we might get all of the data siloed in one place under one naming structure and totally accessible. We have these kind of starter plants of projects as we go and do model changes, as we do cap ups, and then especially, Trent, as you mentioned, as we're building out new facilities like our battery facility in North Carolina, there's a lot of focus around that connectivity. These short-term projects are very important for a couple of reasons. One is they demonstrate value in the near term, but they also build out the capability for the teams. So if we wait until the big project to really start practicing these deployments, we're not going to be good at it, and we're going to fall on our face when it really counts. And so through these small projects, we're able to build up the skill set for the team members, and build up our understanding of how to justify the projects, how to run the projects, how to sustain the projects, and really set ourselves up much better long-term for success with the much broader, bigger initiative that is ongoing.
So taking smaller risk, that you are taking small iterations, right, towards the big goal. And if for some reason you fall flat on your face, at least you didn't fall very far, right?
And we learn from it. Yeah. So we have plenty of calluses at this point on my team, and we wear them with pride. And we try to make sure that those failures are contained and that they're not lost, that we capture that learning and feed it forward to the next project.
Yeah, that's where we learn, right? When we fall down, we learn the best. So
yeah, absolutely, couldn't agree more. All right, just a quick reminder to the audience, please get your questions into the Q&A function on the platform, and we will make sure we get some time to get to them at the end. We are a little bit pushed for time now, because obviously this is a very complicated topic and there's so much to say. Helen, I just wanted to come back to you now and talk a little bit about going back to the Gen AI aspect of all this and how this is going to play into all the things that we're talking about. And one of the things that we talk a lot about in relation to Gen AI in kind of more, I don't know, kind of more business focused or more mundane areas like marketing, sales, and content generation is bias. And I know you have a couple of thoughts about what that bias looks like when you're talking about using Gen AI in relation to the industrial Internet of Things, right? Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you that diversity of thoughts is my favorite topic. I know that we always talk about bias, but we're constrained sometimes with what we know. And I'll give you an example, right? There's inventor in France who invented the first recording device, actually 20 years before Thomas Edison invented the recording device. And he was very, very smart, very proud of what he invented. But there's one little thing he forgot. That was, I believe, 1857-ish. He forgot the playback. So only thing was that he was doing that all by himself. He didn't really invite the other people to join force. So kind of fast forward, right? Bias is everywhere, right? AI application run through algorithm, right? It is a set of instruction for problem solving. And it is so super critical to identify the potential biases into the algorithm development. And then that's first step. The second step is really the selection of the data sets and the training of the data sets. Those combined will dictate what the outcome will be. I'll tell you how AI can introduce bias. So AI believes that 99% of the engineers are male. I'm going to ask Nick and Trent, do you believe that? You probably see it, but it may not be 99%. But basically what it tells us is that AI can be worse. If not really managed properly, it can be worse than real human beings' judgment. Another example is that, in the vehicle, right, you have the headrest and the safety belt. And study has shown that 47% more inclination for women to get injured because the test object may be largely built upon men's physique. So I'm trying to say is that we need to really think about introducing the diversity of thoughts into the AI algorithm design and the data set introduction. And of course, the diversity goes beyond gender, race, age, socioeconomical status, religion, belief. It's really the diversity of thoughts that matters the most. Should the inventor in France thought about the diversity of thoughts, he didn't have to wait. I mean, of course, he didn't see it. The playback only happened 100 years after. So that's why, there are a lot of examples in potential health inequities, right, in healthcare as well. So there are many, many examples. That's really one thing to say, that as all the leaders on this call are thinking about leveraging AI, the new technology, please, please, please think further, think ahead, and really at the very beginning, considering the diversity of data, of the people who's developing the algorithm, all these factors, build that as part of your thinking process upfront.
Yeah, extremely important point. I think we can all agree on that. Thank you for that, Helen. All right, as I said, we've got 15 minutes left. I want to make sure we have time for a couple of questions at the end. So I think right now is the best time to get out our crystal balls, virtual crystal balls, and to look into the future a little bit. And so, Nick, I wanted to come to you first. And could you talk a little bit about how you're planning to scale IoT solutions across Toyota over the coming months and years?
Yeah. We have 13 vehicle lines and 6 unit plants in North America alone, and obviously globally it's much larger than that. And my team's pretty small. There's no way we can execute and have ownership over the deployment, and let alone the sustainment of these projects, even just in North America. For this, we kind of fall back on our core founding principles. We've talked about 2 pillars. One is respect for people, and the other is Kaizen. Kaizen meaning continuous improvement. And sort of in alignment with something Helen said earlier, is that everybody is a knowledge worker, and we have to treat and give respect for and understand the capabilities of all of the members across North America. My team's 40 people, but we have 40,000 in North America and 300,000 or so globally, team members, and their ability to contribute is essential. And we have to empower them to continue the Toyota philosophy of Kaizen and give them the capability to do those improvements themselves. So this means, as we're looking at new products and developing them, one of the core functions of a new product is obviously it has to be able to do the work, but it has to be deployable and configurable without a massive amount of specialized knowledge. We can't have PhDs in machine learning out doing each of these deployments. We have to have team members that are, in a former role where maybe fitting doors on a vehicle, need to be able to set up a camera and make their lives better at work. This, we feel, this empowerment gives them a sense of agency and ownership over the product that we find is critical to the success of the solutions. Where we have central resources like my team come in and deploy, there's often a resistance to the solution. Whereas when we can, teach them to fish and they deploy it, there's a sense of pride, and morale significantly improves. They're bragging about the solution as opposed to heckling me every time I walk by. So we really that's the empowerment of the team members is critical.
And getting leadership buy-in as well, right?
Yeah, giving them visibility to their leadership, so they can take credit for and that they're the ones getting the pat on the back. I don't need that. That's there.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that, Nick. All right, and so looking to the future, Helen, going back to the AI topic, which is your real passion. What do you suggest leaders should do now to get ready in order to start generating that value, not just in the short term, but also looking further into the future? What are some practical steps that they can take?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that Nick and Trent already touched on it. And I'm going to, just kind of to add a few thoughts on top of what they already shared. So we're talking about transformation. It's change management. And a lot of the transformation is led off by data. And think about Gen AI, it's the tip of the iceberg. You can't really do Gen AI without good data foundation, good data strategy, and mindset change. It's up top down, it's bottom up. You need a community, right? And then you also need a lot of new skills. Yes, some of the skills are probably shifting and roles get automated, but you talked about it, Harish, that there are a lot of new roles and soft and hard skills that's required. From data engineering to ethical AI to prompt development, and there are a lot of new roles. So that's really a layer. And then you got to think about ethical AI and also the business and IT alignment. That's why I would really encourage all the leaders on this call to think about, how do you think big, right? And how do you start small and scale fast, and working backwards from your customer. and think about how you develop your people, and also make sure that you build community and really give the team encouragement of those small wins. Really latch on the small wins, right? That's really important. And I think, Nick, you nailed it. Celebrate the small wins, because it's really hard. It is change management.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that it's always something I like to bring out in these sessions is the human aspect, and I just think it's so important, because nothing works if you don't get the people on side and really bought into the whole process. Having said that, we are going to end on a technology question, and Trent, I wanted to come to you finally to just ask you about, in terms of the technologies and all the things we've been talking about, connectivity, etc. What do you think of the technology or technologies that you think have the greatest potential to really drive improvement in IoT over the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, I think that it really comes down to the added friction between the needs of OT and IT, or operational technology and informational technology. The needs have been met and prioritized to manufacture for the operational technology. And then the informational technology have been security and scale and data and connectivity have been their priorities. And I really think that those needs are starting to become more prevalent in the OT area. So the blending of bringing those capabilities from IT into operational technology is really what's going to start to begin to scale and transform businesses at a much more rapid pace. I think that the biggest issues are that we are not working on common technologies, common communication capabilities, common connectivity, even though we've had Ethernet technology in industry since the 80s. We have not been realizing the benefits of data and connectivity like the informational technology space has for decades. So I really believe that once we start to implement common communication technologies, for example, like SQL, MQTT, OPC UA, REST API, these are all things that the informational technology side of the business is familiar with, and they have tons of assets, human resources, tools, ways and methodologies that leverage these things. Once we can implement those into manufacturing processes, we can really start to unlock data and begin to experience those benefits on the operational side of the business as well. So I think it's really comes to the convergence of those two capabilities. So we need to try to work together a little more, I think, because we're so resistant to communicate to each other from the operational and the informational technology side of the businesses. I think just because we don't fully understand those portions of the business don't fully understand the needs and capabilities. So we need to share that, I think, more.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back again to the human aspect that we were talking about and the change management aspect that Helen was talking about before. So, and that together with standards like MQTT, for example, which is a big topic today and is a big topic every time at one of these events, to be honest. If you can try and get both of those sides of the equation right, then I think that's the key to really making big strides forward. All right, fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Trent. So we've got a couple of questions that I'd like to come back to you with. So Nick mentioned a while ago a phrase which I think is going to give me nightmares for the next few weeks: skeletal tracking on the shop floor. And Jason asks, Nick, how do you negotiate the recording of employees when it comes to skeletal tracking? So what are the kind of approval or data privacy issues around that?
So there's a lot of that. And we work very closely, and this is again working very closely with the people on that and framing the project in a way that is human centric and not Big Brother. So I did mention that the intent for this we're not monitoring metrics and beating people up over not hitting. The focus is around team member self-coaching. So somewhat similar to if you're on a stationary bike and you're getting that feedback on your performance. It allows you to kind of gamify your work and maintain motivation. And then we're also working with the team members as we build it out and get more information. Like, would there be positive ways to build, like anonymize as like a group of people and, gamify some level of, not competition, but like be able to showcase effort. But again, this cannot come from management telling people, go faster. It has to be led by the people, and how do they want to make their lives better, reduce injuries, celebrate wins and efficiency gains. How do we enable them?
Right. Yeah. And so taking a more, a kind of more constructive, positive approach rather than, because obviously when these topics come up, then people automatically start thinking about, tracking the number of minutes you spend going to the toilet, or whatever it is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Those are the very front of the design of the system is eliminating that as a possibility.
Yeah.
And I'm actually, that kind of goes with the theme of what we've been talking about a little bit with AI too. So I think that with technology, trying to empower people and leverage their knowledge, right? They're all knowledge workers. So we need to be able to enable them, empower them to be able to contribute to the business with every skill, every capability that they have that can benefit. And then with AI, there's a lot of fear wrapped around it that maybe it's going to take our jobs, but really I see the primary use case for it right now, that it's going to augment or it's going to supplement our capabilities by helping us be more efficient or making suggestions while we are the ones that execute on the suggestions that might have been given to us by AI. For example, coding, you have to kind of know how to code, but you can leverage generative AI to speed up that development effort.
Okay, very quick answer to the following question, because it's so big that only an extremely quick answer will be possible. Where is the point going to be where Gen AI is doing the innovation on its own? Anybody want to hazard a guess? How long is it going to take? 10 years, 20 years, 50 years?
It's exponential probably. So
okay.
I would expect, how long has it been since we've, created Gen AI and it's gotten to where it is now?
Yeah.
Maybe Helen has some insight on that one, but I would say that it's going to be even shorter. Divide that by 3, or, it's going to be even shorter for the next iteration.
Only if we have the crystal ball and agree the sentiment. Everything is at expedited speed right now, and the future is now.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm a little more skeptical. I think that last mile is getting 99% is very hard, but then 99.99 is much harder. So I think that there's that last mile is going to be really tough.
Okay, well, we'll see. Hopefully we'll be around to see at least the first iterations of it. Thanks, guys. We're out of time. Thanks for all your amazing insights. Thanks to the sponsor, Omron. And now it's time to move to the next session. Beware of bad actors, leveraging AI-powered threat intel to keep industrial systems safe and available. Enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.